Hi, and welcome to Forward Progress. Today I'd like to talk about leadership, specifically leading through adversity. I had the joy of having this conversation with my team a few weeks ago, and we discussed this particular topic and some of the skills and traits needed to truly be a good leader through challenging times. And I found it very insightful, very helpful personally, and I thought that it would just be great information to share with you. So hopefully you find some good information here. Now, when you think about leadership and the skills and traits needed to be a good leader, notice I didn't say a boss, a good leader. Well, there are a lot of different books that provide a lot of great skills and skills practices to help you become a better leader. But I want to talk about three specific ones. These three specific traits and keys to successful leadership really tie back to being successful in the hard times, in the challenging times, in the thing when things don't go as planned. And that there could be a lot of those cases. It could be an economic hardship. There could be major changes inside the company, organizational changes. There could be a lot of different things that make it challenging for your team. Well, these three skills, these three traits will help you lead through that as best as possible. So what are they? Three keys to leading through adversity: communication, empathy, and trust. So let's break those down. Communication. I don't simply mean that leadership talks to their frontline people, they talk to their employees and their teammates. That is communication. That's not what I mean. I mean consistent, transparent communication. Now, when I say consistent communication, well, some people think, well, I talk to my teammates every day. I talk to my team members on a weekly basis. I send weekly emails or a newsletter. That's all consistent communication. You're not wrong, but I'm not talking about a time frame consistency. I'm talking about a message consistency. When you look at communication, especially in trying times, in times of adversity, is the entire leadership team on the same page? Is every member of leadership, every member of management, are they conveying the same message in the same way? That's consistent communication, and that's key to get through adversity. If your leadership team is not on the same page, if they're delivering different messages, that starts to cause division in your team, doubt on your team. Now, I don't know, who should I listen to? Should I listen to this person? Should I listen to that person? And that confusion and doubt will start to crumble your team. So consistent communication, but I also said transparent communication. What I mean by that is part of our responsibility as a leader is to communicate what we know when we know it, when it's possible. So obviously there will be times in certain situations where there may be a clause where you can't speak about certain things until a certain time. There might be realistic need to know basis, and until that point you can't discuss it. I understand that. But if that's not the case, then your team deserves to know what you know when you know it. That's transparency. And if you don't know, tell them you don't know. That's also transparency. This form of communication, when you're consistent and your entire leadership team has that consistent message, but you also provide that transparency. Here's what I do know. Here are the details I do know. Here's what I don't know. When you lay that out for your team and you have that form of communication, you start to really build the foundation for a strong, solid team. And it makes it so much easier to progress forward through the steps of transition and through that trying time, that adversity that you're seeing. So not just communication, consistent, transparent communication. What's the second key? The second key I said was empathy. Genuosity means something in today's day and age, whether people believe it or not, and that genuine understanding of where your team's coming from. They see that and they feel that. When I say empathy, I really refer to educated empathy. But when we discuss empathy in this context, do you understand your team? Do you understand where they're coming from? Do you see and recognize the doubts that they have, the fear that they may be dealing with, the struggles that they're going through with whatever changes or adversities happening? All of those things are real, and more likely than not, you've probably experienced the exact same thing at some time in your career as well. Tell them that. When you share your experiences, when you open yourself up, the human side of yourself as a leader, and let them know you're not crazy for having doubt. You're not wrong for feeling this way or for seeing and recognizing these challenges. You're not wrong for what you're experiencing and feeling right now. When you do that, that shows genuine empathy. And you start to build a connection with your team that it's almost impossible to have without that empathy. When you start to share those personal human experiences, well, now they understand, you know what? He's a real person just like I am. She understands me. She understands how I feel. This leader really does get me. And that empathy helps to build their buy-in, their belief structure in you as a leader. So empathy, powerful tool today. But what's the third step? That third piece is trust. Your team must trust you as a leader. They must. I didn't say they should. I said they must. Because if you truly want to lead your team through adversity and get through it in the most positive way possible, be ready to go at the end of that adversity, they have to trust you. Now you'll notice there are a few different ways that you can build trust as a leader. Two of the most powerful ways to build trust, I just mentioned. Consistent, transparent communication and genuine empathy. Those two skills and traits, those two keys build trust on their own. But there's more to that, right? Do you follow through with the commitments that you make to your team? Do you listen to them when they have issues? Do you let them speak their mind or give input on coaching sessions? All of those things build trust in your team. A lot of that comes back to just generally being a leader with honesty and integrity. Do you follow through with your commitments? Do you walk the walk? That builds trust. So if you're noticing that your team is going through adversity, self-reflect. Are you following those 3 steps? Because it's going to make your life a lot easier as you go through that adversity. Clear, consistent, transparent communication. Show your team empathy and understand where they're coming from, their fears, their doubts, their worries. And have you earned their trust? And if not, what can you do to earn it now? Utilize those 3 traits, and I really think you're going to see your team moving forward much easier through adversity and through challenges. Now, I did say I wanted to talk about how this reflects to our current situation as a country. So if we think back, and I don't want to get into any kind of political debates, I'm not going to take left side, right side, or anything in the middle. I just want to reflect on our situation as a whole and look at these 3 traits and how that's worked. Obviously, we've gone through an unprecedented experience with the COVID pandemic. And there are a lot of questions of why are we where we are right now? Why is there so much disjunction nationwide? Why is there so much anger and hatred and all the stuff from both sides of the spectrum? Now let's think about a couple things. Look at the communication. Is the communication that we're getting consistent? Meaning, does every level of our leadership on a nationwide level present the same message? I think that's an obvious answer, right? Remember, when we don't have that consistent message from leadership, when you have local leadership having one message, national leadership having another, it starts to breed that doubt. You don't know who to believe, and it causes issues. Transparency. Do you know what you should know when you should know it? Is that communication transparent? Are we getting all of the information? Or does it feel like there are things being hidden or left behind or left out, etc., right? So communication, that could be part of the situation at hand, that lack of good, consistent, transparent communication. Empathy. And I've seen this on both sides of the spectrum with the situation we have. How often do we see people actually step back and say, well, I want to hear your point of view. Why do you feel the way that you do? Why do you have the worries that you have? whatever doubts you may be feeling, and truly empathizing where they're coming from? Or are people reacted to with anger, with hatred, with immediate shutdown? There's been an extreme lack of empathy through this process on both sides of the spectrum. And then you look at the third key to leading through adversity: trust. When you think about the trust, obviously you can go back as long as you want, but for many, many years, the genuine American society has had a overall lack of trust in their government. For many different reasons, regardless of which administration and which side of the spectrum the current leadership may be on, there has been a very large amount of distrust across the board. So when you start having those trying times or that adversity, and there's already a general lack of trust, and now you add to that a lack of consistent communication, a lack of transparency, and a lack of empathy from that leadership, whatever small amount of trust was left is gone. When we look at our current situation, it kind of proves how powerful these three particular keys can be to leading through adversity. And I truly hope that someone can actually implement these and help bring that consistency that we need. But again, that's just a reference to where we're at, just so you can tie it back and see how the lack of these three skills can cause all kinds of problems in your own organization, whether that's a team of 5 or a nationwide team throughout the country. I hope that you found this information useful. It's been a pleasure spending some time with you today. If you're watching on our Facebook channel, please make sure you go ahead and like that right down here. Go ahead and like this video, follow our Facebook page, and I would love to see your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe. You should be able to subscribe right over here, and check out some of my other videos. I've got quite a few other videos on a lot of other different leadership topics. But again, in either case, I would love to hear your input, what you thought about today's message, and maybe some ideas for our next topic, because I look forward to seeing you again. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless.